asking what's in here, you don't want to know what's in here. We are trying out a new recording setup for the screen record. Let's see how we go with this setup. It's not as cool as the iPad. That's okay. That's alright. I reckon this laptop's gonna start feeling really heavy very soon. Okay. So my eyebrows were a bit itchy when I'm always a bit like, you get that weird sensation, and then like I just need to. It's not like I'm trying to. Okay. What do you do when you have two songs that aren't harmonically 100% gelling together? Yeah, we already looked at a section where we do this on purpose. Obviously, we need to do it beforehand most of the time, and we see what songs sort of will work well together, but create that uneasiness. It feels unsettling. That's the word, because they're clashing with each other. And yes, so we can do it on purpose, and we can create, I don't know why I put purpose in quotations, but anyway, we can create something. So we're manipulating the music from a different perspective. We mentioned this sort of multi-dimensionality of your music. So we're not looking at music from its face value. We're trying to create a meaning behind the music. We're using the lyrics. We're using the musical content. We're using some of the rhythms in the music, the melody, to create our own texture, create our own sort of dimensionality in the music, right? So we're able to create these sort of subconscious feelings within the mix. We can do things that might not be perceived as deliberate, but are done in an effort to create a different texture and voice in the mix. Okay, now if I haven't lost you, let's keep going. So that's one key idea. Okay, now what happens if you're just doing it like on the fly and you want to create, a certain scene in the music, or you really want to play a certain song because you know that if you play it after, it's not really going to work. So what do you do in those situations when you really want to play a song, but you just know that it's sort of gonna work, but not gonna work? It's that gray area. The key really here is having confidence in doing that and being adamant about what you want to do. Okay, so let's have a look at a point where we're not deliberately wanting to make them, seem unsettled. We just really want to play this piece, but harmonically, it's not really gelling 100%. Play. Making sure the sync is good.
Our heartbeats used to move in time. They slowed down, left us behind. This is the story. I gotta say.
Okay, so what is causing this clash? Right, so we can hear it, this is a key aspect about ear training, okay? So you can use this as an ear training moment. This is why it's key to have this training, so you can pick up when it's just slightly off. So what's the main component here that's making it off? Okay, outside of the harmonic mixing and all that other stuff, okay, the keys, etc. What is the main component here that's causing the issues? Okay, well, there's a lot of music information. Now, when we say musical information, okay, what are we referring to? Well, it could be a range of different things, okay? But in this context, we're referring to music information within the piece. So you have the bass, the drums, the key melody, the synths, or whatever's playing that melody, the vocal line. You have just snares, you have maybe a hi-hat, you have a piano, you have some guitar maybe. So all this music information is within the music, okay? And now pop music has a lot of musical information, rock music, and it can be difficult to mix, say multiple different songs together. Like it's very challenging to mix, a full-blown production of pop music with another production of pop music when you have a lot of information at the same time. So it's very difficult to mix three at the same time, something like that. You can't just take a vocal of another one, this one take the the drums, or this one take, it's possible, but you really have to pick the right songs, pick the right moments. It's a higher level of complexity. It can be done, but it just requires you to really find the right pieces that will create that glue, that balance between each song, so it doesn't overpower its own self. Okay, so in this situation, we have a lot of music information. Okay, so we have the melody, we have the rhythm, the drums, we have the vocal line, and then not only that, but of the other song, we're going into a song that it isn't just a kick. It isn't just a kick and snare. It's the core melody, the melodic content of the song is straight there. Okay, and for me, the main component here that's clashing is that vocal. Okay, if it was without the vocal, it wouldn't be as noticeable from my perspective. But because we have the lead vocal in there, it's clashing with everything, and it's clashing, and the melodies are clashing, but the counterpoints working, but because they're not harmonically suited to mix well within each other, they're musically, bouncing off. You can imagine like a magnet that they can't go together. They're opposing each other, so they're not wanting to join together. Okay, essentially you have two negatives. Okay, rather than a positive and negative, you have two negatives, and the ions are, I'm not going to get into biochemistry and all that, but they're opposing each other and not going to be able to cohesively strengthen that connection. So the way to combat this is, first and foremost, always look to not be in this situation. Okay, really simple. Secondly, if you do have a song that you really want to play, but you can't, do it later down the line or whatever, what we can look at is creating separation, creating space in your mix. Okay, so right now I'm very, very close, okay, to the camera, to the microphone, and the proximity effect is very close, right? And we would perceive this as I'm really doing my best to say close again. But, from this perspective, it almost feels like someone's right next to you, okay? So our focus point is really this right now, because I'm very, very close to the camera. But as I move back, as we create a distance, that focus point starts shifting, okay? And our main focus, which was the voice, isn't as prominent now, okay? Because we've created that distance, and our proximity effect is much greater than it was, okay? Now, the reason I say this is that what we can do is we have this second piece coming in, okay? We brought up the fader, we brought it in, okay? Now, instead of having the two songs be continuously clashing with each other, we can create that separation by adding effects in, okay? So we're bringing in this second piece with its own melody, etc. And the way we allow the focus point to be on this piece that's coming in is by creating space in that first song, okay? And a common way of doing this is when you hear a lot of reverb in a vocal line, and you're like, oh, it's like it's huge, or like a canyon, right? You're creating this space, this atmosphere around the vocal. Okay, and you can't really pinpoint where it is. But one thing we know is that it's not a close proximity. And we can then, spatially, we can then say, okay, if someone's, if I'm standing here, right, and another person's over there, we can say, okay, our attention is usually going to be the person that's quite near to us rather than the person that's quite far away. And this is a very common technique and method to use when you're mixing your own music, your own production. We talk about creating height, creating width, creating depth. These are common ideas when you are, working with, creating a vibe in your music. Okay, when you are mixing your own music in your DAW or analog, whatever you choose to do. And then this is quite a big area. Okay, and I will encourage you to look at there's plenty of courses and tutorials out there that really talk about creating depth, creating height, creating width in your mix. Okay, but one key component here, right, is creating this separation to allow the focus to shift. Especially when you have these two things that are clashing with each other, you can then, instead of having them continuously clash, you can create that separation, allow the second one to come, and that can be the focus, and have everything else be further back. Okay. Now, some other ways to do this is through your EQ. Okay, turning down the low end and allowing the low end to come from the track that's coming in, turning up, manipulating the EQ of one and increasing the effect of the EQ on the track that's coming in, increasing that mid-range. These are just some simple things you can do to create more of that presence in the one that you want, and allowing the focus to shift from the one that you wanted to essentially get rid of. So let's look at it again and see if you can pick up what I'm on about. Okay, see how the vocal is starting to feel almost out of tune? Because it is. Well, not out of tune, but not working with the song that's coming in. See how we're adding the wash, we're adding this reverb, and the focus is that new song that's coming in. Okay, so we're noticing that they're not joining well, they're hitting each other. Cool, no worries. Perhaps move some of the low end, create that space, push, create a big amount of effect, the shimmer, the reverb, the delays, things that push it out into the stereo, give it a bit of that separation, pull it back. Another option here is lowering the volume. If something is louder, we're going to notice that more. We're going to perceive it as closer to us if something's louder to us than something's further away. Okay? And you notice here, if you look at my left hand, you could notice that we are pulling that fader down. So as we're creating this effect, yeah? Okay, so in this instance, we haven't removed the low end, but that could be something that I could have done here as well to create that bigger separation. But here we're moving that fader down, we're adding that effect, okay? Just some of the things I just talked about, and we're creating that space. And not only that, but you're creating now depth in your mix. Okay, so you not only have something here, but you have something around, you have something in the stereo space, then you also have something all the way back. So even though they might be just focused on this, if someone stops and really closes their eyes and listens, you're really creating a beautiful stereo image currently in your mix. Cool, and as rapid kicks come in, the effect is lessening. We've essentially now removed that first song, the new song is coming in, and we're good to go.
I gotta stay high all the time to keep you off my mind.